I think if you go back a little bit to the history, how happened that suddenly we, like humanity, start to concentrate on this climate change story, which we delivered in 1989 in the United Nations. So what was the moment at that time? Basically, it was a moment when world seems to move away from the previous big danger, from the nuclear war.
That's right.
So that was a moment of kind of reorganization of the world. So she said that, okay, now when one problem passes, we have ability to concentrate on another, on dealing with the climate change. So that was the beginning of the story. After that, 3 years after that, in Rio de Janeiro, convention was signed. In the Day of the Earth, convention was signed. Convention which start to put in place formal mechanism of combating possible climate change implication, etc. There are many strategies which can be applied in order to move forward with this task. But at this moment, a particular strategy was chosen. Strategy which was concentrating on killing fossil fuels or reducing dependence from the fossil fuels in different industrial processes. So that was a moment when it's happened. So question is, why it's happened at that time exactly in this way? I think it's happened because at this moment of time, international institutions which were concerned with this issue, United Nations and others, were basically dominated exclusively by the Western, let's say, Western influence at this moment of time. They were basically, because it was not other powers in the world at this moment of time. So how some people call it, it was end of the history, end of the history moment. So it was one power, and all institutions in one way or another basically move towards goals more, let's say, beneficial for this power at this moment of time. So why Western countries took away of the combating climate change through this specific mechanism, through the combating of the dependency on the fossil fuels or dependency of the industrial processes from the fossil fuels? Very simple, because it was two benefits. Benefit number one, to reduce dependence of energy imported from the faraway places.
Yes.
Energy security. Okay. So
that's a good reason.
It's a pretty good reason. And second reason was that new technologies which is needed in order to produce energy, not from the fossil fuels, but let's say from renewable and other sources, or new industrial processes which need to be developed to do other job without using fossil fuels. Basically, the idea was that country who will start to do it first will get a technological advantage and will create not only something good for their own economy, but later will be able to provide the same solution to other countries and like this maintain technological leadership. So that was a logic. So why basically directions was moved towards this? Think about it. If you're talking about planting of the trees, it's nice, but where to plant it? In Russia, in Brazil, somewhere in Africa. So definitely not in Europe. So because not so much space available, which basically not used for other purposes, for agriculture or other productive purposes. So that's why idea moved towards this direction. Also, it was more easier to, let's say, to sell to the voters because investments done at your home, working places created at your home, but at the same time, you're kind of fighting global problem. In this situation, climate change, it's a very specific story because we have one atmosphere for whole the planet. It's very unusual compared with other problems. If you want to give people access to the water, you need to do something where these people live. If you wanted to do something with the climate change, you can do investment in your own territory, benefiting your industry and your taxpayers, but still fighting global good. So this is kind of asymmetry existing.
That's the idea, and that's how it's been sold. But in effect, climate policy has reduced the standard of living of people in the United States and Europe. It's made energy more expensive. It's made them poorer.
Actually, what happened exactly what it should happen. So by applying something what is relatively expensive, slowly, local industry start to be not very competitive. Like result, working places and production start to shift away to the countries where it's more competitive,
Yes.
more competitive to do. So, like result, that is what really happened. So, who is leader today in terms of the solar panels, in the wind, basically? Of
China.
course, China, electric cars. So that's what happened. So basically, Western countries started trend with decarbonization, trying to achieve one result, but in reality, another result was achieved during the same period of time. What Western countries do today? First of all, I will tell about Europe because they're in forefront of all of these processes. So, okay, domestic industry become not competitive. So what you do? So firstly, you try to subsidize them using basically different budget money. Okay, but then your competitors starting to do the same. I'm talking about China or other countries or United States, like famous Inflation Reduction Act of the President Biden, which is bringing a lot of money to subsidize renewable energy.
Yes.
So we start competition of this. Okay, one story. But poor countries cannot compete. They don't have money for this. Second, what Europeans doing and what will happen in other countries as well, you start to create a barrier for the goods which is produced in other part of the world, but which should enter your territory. Meaning, if carbon reduction in your domestic place cost, I don't know what it costs today, maybe 80 euros, and if some producer produce goods in another place of the world where carbon reduction costs zero, yeah, so his products, when they're coming to the Europe, he will need to pay duty. It's so-called CAPM mechanism. They will need to pay duties to compensate the cost for difference with the cost with European producers. In other words, the story is pushed for other countries to follow the same agenda. So that's basically where we are. Step number one, it was logical to choose, from the perspective of the Western countries, to choose this course.